Everyone, welcome back to the channel. So today I'm going to take a look at the Transformers Legacy Evolution G2 Universe Deluxe Class Mirage. Let me know anything of this figure in the comment section down below. Is it a pickup or pass? Now let's take a look at the figure's packaging. So here we have the packaging. Starting at the very front, we have Transformers on the side. We have the Legacy Evolution logo at the bottom. We also do have G2 Universe Autobot Mirage in white text. So we have a really cool orc shot of Mirage in his race car all mode. We have an open one displaying the figure in the packaging. We have another Legacy Evolution logo at the top of the box. If we do turn to the side, we have two really cool orc shots of Mirage in his robot mode. One more of a wide shot and a really cool battle pose with his accessories, and one more of a close-up shot of Mirage's head and chest. On the back, the figure transforms in 19 steps. There's a product shot of him in his robot and his race car alt mode. And on the final side, we do have half of the Legacy Evolution artwork. So if you do get another figure a part of this Toxitron collection, such as Laser Cycle or maybe G2 Jazz, you can actually put both boxes together and complete the artwork. And that is pretty much it for the packaging. So let's now get into the review. Here we have G2 Mirage in his robot mode. Let's take a look at the details, starting at the very top with the Hesco. We have some really nice silver for the face, some green for the eyes, some green for the main helmet section. We have some really nice kind of burning bright pink for the entire chest, so with a racing number of 188. We have this really cool kind of racing fin at this chest here done as silver. We actually have this very interesting sort of crocodile or alligator design or decal on the shoulder. This mostly comes into play later because these pieces here or panels actually do form the back fin for the race car. So again, not really for this mode, but it's actually pretty cool how it ends up on the shoulder. There's some really nice silver for the teeth, a nice dark green for the main head or body of the alligator, and of course some red for the eyes, looking very ferocious and scary. There's actually another one repeated on the other shoulder. It's pretty interesting, but I actually think it looks pretty cool. And there's this really nice bright pink for the shoulders, the forearms, some green for the bicep, and some black for the hands. There's some more of that green for the crotch and the hips and waist. And there's a bit of a darker shade of pink for the top of the legs. There's this interesting kind of circle or bubble design for the side of the legs there. Not entirely sure what that's supposed to be, really just a guess, but I think it looks pretty cool. And this is really nice kind of glossy green for the front of the legs and some silver for the top of the knees. And there's some pink for the feet. And if we do flip to the back, overall kibble wise, he really doesn't have much of any kibble. There is a bit of wheel kibble back here, mostly coming to play later for the other mode, but that really doesn't bother me. As far as the backpack goes, he really does not have one. I actually kind of like how the wheels sort of stick out the back. I actually think that looks pretty cool. And he does have quite a few mech take ports. There's one on the back, some on the back of the arms, so quite a few ways you can actually store the accessories, which is pretty cool. And that is pretty much it for details. So now for articulation, the head can look up and down, can look left to right. It really cannot tilt side to side. The arms can move out and in, forward and back. There is bicep rotation and elbow bends. There is no wrist rotation. There is a full functioning waist rotation all the way around, which is really good to see. The legs can kick forward, back, out to the side. There is rotation at the top of the leg. There is a knee bend on a very stiff hinge to a pretty good degree, and there is an ankle pivot. Also, there is a toe pivot forward and back. As far as articulation goes, I'd say it pretty much checks all those boxes. The only thing is, of course, there is no wrist rotation. That's mostly due to transformation. Also, this is like the 4th or 5th version of this mold, so I really wouldn't say there's any surprises with this figure. Of course, unless you've actually never gotten this mold before, of course, this is kind of brand new too. I'd say overall it is pretty average for Deluxe. As far as tolerances go, actually really nice tight joints. I'd say my only complaint is, unfortunately, with a little bit of a back kibble where these wheels are, sometimes it really doesn't bother me that they're on the back of the legs. It's just sometimes they do have a tendency to kind of move and actually be a bit loose. I think they could have locked him down a bit better because they are a tad bit floppy. But that's a very minor nitpick or complaint. But as for accessories, they're the exact same ones that came with, the original Kingdom Mirage, Crasher, Leadfoot, all of those. So you know exactly what to expect with this figure. He does come with this really cool kind of rifle machine gun, which is blast paste compatible. Done this really nice bright silver. Hopefully it's not exploding too much on your camera because of course I do have a white background, but hopefully you can see it. And there's some pink for the handle or the post. There's actually a bit of a sort of scope there and a little bit of ammo charge or ammo little container there, which I think is pretty cool. Ammo clip. And you can just plug this in his hand like that. I think that looks pretty cool. There's also, of course, as I showed before, several mech ports on the back, so if you want to, you could store on the back of the figure. There's also this rocket launcher, which I think looks quite cool, which is actually blaster piece compatible in several different ways. There's actually one at the tip, and you can actually remove the missile to make it look like it's firing. And there's also, of course, a port right there, so you can actually attach an effects part and make it look like it's actually shooting off, which I quite like. There's actually this really nice scope in that bright pink. There's actually some really nice scope work. If you actually do look close enough, there's some really cool surface detailing there. So One complaint that has actually stayed consistent for every variation or version of this mold is unfortunately you cannot actually store the missile launcher on the shoulder. That was one thing that definitely was better on the Siege Mirage rather than the Kingdom one. Of course, the Siege one was definitely more futuristic based, so it really wasn't an Earth, based figure. This is definitely more Earth based figure, so of course there is that. But that actually had a feature or an option of actually storing the rocket launcher on the shoulder. This one does not, so that's definitely one thing I preferred over the Siege. And honestly, it really wouldn't be that hard for them to include that. They really just needed to add like a post or a port there, and that really would have worked out. But again, not really a complaint specific to this Mirage here or this version of this mold, really just the mold in general, because the original Kingdom Mirage, the other versions never had this option. That was kind of one thing people were pretty bummed about when this figure first came out, myself included, but I've kind of grown used to it. But you can also store this in his hands like that, and I think that's pretty much it for accessories. So now for some comparisons. Here he is with G2 Jazz, and his review is coming very soon on the channel. Make sure you stay tuned for that. And for one final comparison, here he is with a mold comparison, that being the original Kingdom Mirage. I think they look pretty cool side by side. So as I said before, pretty much the exact same thing, really just a deco change. There is no new mold changes, the exact same accessories. So please do let me know in the comments, of course, of all, I think 4 versions of this mold so far, which one is your favorite? Let me know in the comments. I'm actually not entirely sure right now. I've kind of gone back and forth between the Kingdom Mirage and the lead foot from that Wreck and Rule Amazon exclusive pack. Those I would say are definitely the top 2. They might be tied, or one might be slightly above the other. One thing I've never really liked about this Mirage is the accessories. They're that kind of really boring unfinished gray, and there's more of that for the feet and the biceps. Never really liked that. I think they probably should have done like a silver limit, like maybe that weapon, or they could have done like a blue, or like a much more interesting gray, like a gunmetal gray. Just something would have been a lot better, just anything different. So that is one thing I definitely like or prefer on this deco over this one, is the accessories. They're actually painted and have some really nice details. There is some really nice sculpt work on these accessories. Of course, they are the same molding, just that gray is really boring and unfinished, but overall I think they look pretty cool side by side. Here's a bit of a side view here. As you can see, pretty much everything ends up in the exact same way, same place. And looking at the back, all the same back here, and that is pretty much it for comparisons and this robot mode. Let's now get down to transformation. So now for transformation, what you're going to want to do is fold in the hands just like that, do the exact same thing on the other side. Then you're going to get these little shoulder panels here, hinge them in like that, hinge them in. Then you're actually going to bring the arms out like that. Then you can actually untab this entire kind of shoulder piece or arm piece from the main torso or chest. So just disconnect it like that and fold it up with the arm. How this is tabbed in place is there is a tab right there and a slot on that panel. Do the exact same thing on the other side. Just hinge this up, fold it in with the arm, again tab and slot. Then you're actually going to flip to the back of the figure, bring these wheels out. You're just going to kind of put them where the armpit region of the figure is. And then you're actually going to open up this little back panel here. How this was tabbed in place is there's a slot right there and a tab right there. You're going to fold the head in, and of course just make sure all the way compressed in like that. And again, there is a tab and slot that's just going to tab into place. Then you can actually get this entire back section here. You're just going to hinge this up like that using that hinge right there. And then you can get the arms, hinge these all the way back, and we're going to go back to those a little bit later in the transformation. Then what you're going to do is actually use the rotation at the top of the leg, hinge these in like that. Then you can actually get this entire assembly out, hinge this out like that. Then you can actually fold the foot in like that. Do the exact same thing on their side. So just get this entire panel here, fold this out using this hinge. It's actually a very tight one. Hinge this out, fold in the foot. Then you actually can go to the wheels, as you're just going to rotate out like that. Rotate out like that. Just flip these out. And then what you can do is actually tab both halves together. As you can see, there's 2 tabs on this side and slots on this side, so that's going to tab together. And then you can fully hinge up these little side panels right here into this configuration. Do the exact same thing on their side. Just fold this all the way up, and then you pretty much just tab both halves together like that. So just go underneath here. As you can see, those 2 halves tab together like that. Make sure all nice and compressed. Then you can actually bring the arms down like that. Just hinge these down, hinge these down. As you can see, there is quite a few tabs and slots where these back kind of fin panels are, and there's also a tab and a slot on the inside of the arm. So all this will just tab into place like that. Just make sure everything is nice and compact and compressed, and that is pretty much it for transformation for Mirage. Let's now take a look at the details. Here we have Mirage in his race car alt mode. Let's take a look at the details. Starting at the very front, we have some really nice kind of fin detailing here with some really nice bright pink and a G2 Autobot symbol done in red. I do like this really cool kind of fin detailing or kind of fin piece here with these really cool kind of pipe pieces attaching to the wheel. I think that's a really cool detail. Not a big fan how it's actually done in that kind of unfinished gray plastic. I think it would have looked a lot better if they actually done it in that kind of same silver at that back area there. That would have looked a lot better. But I do like this very nice bright pink. Continuing on to these side sections here, we actually have a bit of a kind of circle or almost bubble detailing. I'm not entirely sure what that is, but I think it looks pretty cool. I do like the entire seat here with a little kind of steering wheel there, also done in pink. We actually have this somewhat alligator sort of decal or design on the back fin there. I think that looks really goofy, but also pretty cool at the exact same time. A nice dark shade of green with some silver for the teeth and some red for the eyes, looking actually very vicious. There's actually, of course, one on each side. And we do have the wheels. Overall, I think it rolls pretty well across any surface. Unfortunately, they're not pins. They're actually mushroom peg, which typically I really don't mind mushroom peg wheels, only if you can actually see them, and when in this case, of course, you actually can see the mushroom peg, which doesn't look the greatest, but I do like the black for the wheel or the tire. I think that looks really nice. And if we do look at the back, overall pretty well compact. If we want to flip to the bottom, overall everything is pretty well put away. You actually really can't see much of that robot mode cable, which is actually really nice to see. I do have a few complaints as some of the stuff and some of the pieces actually really don't have a tendency to actually stay tabbed in. As you can see, there's a few kind of crevices or little gaps here and there with this section. Also, the arms really don't want to stay tabbed in. There's actually a tab and slot specifically for the arms to stay tabbed in, but it never really wants to, so that's a bit unfortunate there. But I'm pretty sure that problem has actually stayed consistent with all versions of this mold, so truth be told, I really wasn't surprised to see this happen on this copy. But detail-wise, that is pretty much it for it. So now for accessory storage, he does come with this rifle, which I briefly showed earlier in his rope mode, done in silver, and you can store this on either side using that post and port system. So I'm just going to plug it into this side here. I think that looks pretty cool. And as for the rocket launcher, his second and final accessory, that can just store on the other side like that, and I think that looks pretty cool. And that is pretty much it for accessory storage. So now for some vehicle mode comparisons. Here he is with another figure from the Toxitron collection, that being Dead End. I think they look quite cool side by side. And his review is up on the channel. Make sure you go check it out after this one. And for one final alt mode comparison, here he is with the mold mates, that being the original Kingdom Amazon exclusive Mirage. And of course, please do let me know in the comments of, I think, all 4 versions of this mold. I think there's been 4, maybe 5. Which one is your favorite? I'm pretty sure there was, of course, these 2 Mirages. There was also Crasher from the Citron line, and there was also, I'm pretty sure it was Leadfoot from the Amazon exclusive line. It was that Wreck and Rule pack. So I think 4 total. I might be forgetting one, but of those 4, of course, which one is your favorite? I think probably Leadfoot might be my favorite. Definitely one thing I actually prefer on this deco or this copy of the figure over this one is the accessories. I really do like the original Kingdom release, the classic G1 colors Mirage, but I never really liked how they used that kind of unfinished, boring gray. And even if it wasn't that kind of cheap, unfinished, boring gray, it was just kind of one solid color. It just looked rather dull and boring. I really like that bright silver and the pink and the blue for this. That just pops and looks a lot better. Maybe they could have done like some red or like white from the actual deco of the figure. I think that would have looked a lot better. But overall, of course, mold-wise, they are the exact same thing, really just a matter of preference of which deco you prefer. And yeah, 2 pretty cool looking race cars. That is pretty much it for the alt modes. So let's now get down to transformations. We're actually going to remove the accessories and just put them off to the side. Then what you want to do is actually just split this entire section here. It can actually be quite tight. Just got to loosen all these pieces up. Then you can actually get this entire section here, split the arms down the middle at this section here, and of course the panel. And then you can just hinge these up like that, all the way. Hinge those up. Then you can actually get the entire wheel piece, hinge this in. Then you can actually get these entire panel section here, just hinge this out. It can actually be very tight, just got to loosen that, there we go, and just hinge this other one out as well. Then you can get this entire wheel section, flip this all the way in, then you can actually get the foot, hinge that out, and collapse that up with the rest of the leg. And then of course you can get this entire wheel piece, just hinge that fully in like that. Do the exact same thing on their side, just flip the foot out, collapse this entire panel here, bring in the wheel, then you can actually rotate at the top of the leg like that. So now these entire wheel sections are actually facing towards you, or of course the back of the legs like that. Then what you can do is get the arms, just hinge these in, like that, or out, I guess. Then you can actually bring out this entire panel, fold out the head like that, and there is a tab right there and a slot right there that's just going to tab into place like that. Sometimes it can be a bit tricky to align. Just gotta line that up. There we go. Then you can fold in the wheels, and then you can get this entire top chest or kind of torso section and just fold this down on that hinge like that. Then we can actually go back to the front here. Let me just quickly kind of straighten him up. Then I'm actually going to raise the camera so you can see what I'm doing. You're just going to get these little shoulder panels, just hinge these up like that. There is a tab and a slot right there that's just going to tab into place like that. And then you can actually bring out the hand, hinge that down, bring out the hand, and then of course tab that panel in like that. And that is pretty much it for reverse transformation for Mirage. Let's now get down to the final thoughts. Now for the final thoughts for the Transformers Legacy Evolution G2 Universe Deluxe Class Mirage. I think overall this is a pretty fun figure. Do I think this is a must-buy? Probably not, no. There's definitely more interesting figures as part of this Toxitron collection. I'd highly recommend to probably get Cloud Cover, Toxitron, G2 Grimlock. Those are definitely the standouts a part of this exclusive subline. If you really do like repaints and you really do like this Kingdom Mirage mold, then definitely I would say get this figure. I think it's a really fun repaint. There is no new molding, but I actually sometimes occasionally will like the repaint more than the original. Would I say this is one of those situations? Probably not, no, but I actually still do really like this deco and this repaint. Quite a few people actually have been calling this the Watermelon Mirage, which I think is actually really funny and hilarious. I think that definitely works for this figure and this color scheme, as you can see. Starting in the remote, I think it's actually really fun. As I mentioned before, no new molding, all just, of course, 100% repaint, redeco. Really, of course, just up to you of if you like this deco, of course, if you might like this more than the original or the other several other repaints of this mold so far. I think this is the fourth one. I'm pretty sure there's been a Crasher, a Leadfoot, and the original Mirage. Probably this isn't my favorite, but I would say it's maybe close second or maybe third, but I think it's still pretty fun. As far as accessories go, they're the exact same ones that have come with the past releases, so the really cool kind of rifle machine gun, and also the rocket launcher, which is pretty fun. I've always had this same complaint with all versions and variations of this mold. Unfortunately, you cannot actually store the rocket launcher on the shoulder, which really isn't a complaint specific to this Mirage, really just the mold in general, because all the other three variations or versions of this mold cannot do that feature, which is a bit unfortunate. That was actually a big debate when the first release, the first Kingdom Mirage came out. Quite a few people were actually pretty upset how it couldn't store on the shoulder, and I do agree it's a bit silly how they don't actually have that as a feature, because that's one of the most classic weapons of Mirage when you typically think of him. You think he can, of course, disappear and actually, of course, create mirages or holograms, and also he does have a rocket launcher on his shoulder. Unfortunately, he cannot do one of those very classic traits of his, which is a bit unfortunate. There is some storage on the back, which is always really cool to see. As far as articulation goes, I think it's overall pretty good. Tolerances are actually really good as well. I think there are a few hinges and kind of rotations on the leg that could be a tad bit tighter. Also, the ankle pivot is good. I'm glad there's one included, but that could be just a tad bit tighter if I was being picky. But of course, as for the core, main joints like the arms and the legs, I think they're overall pretty good. Really fun for posing, really nice tight joints. As far as transformation goes, it's the exact same thing as the previous releases or variations of this mold. If this is your first time experiencing this mold, I would say it's actually pretty fun. It can be a bit fiddly at times, because if you actually watch the transformation segment in this review, you could definitely tell there's actually quite a few hinges and panels that are very tight, so it does require a bit of force and actually, a bit of hard hold on it at times. So don't, I would say, be worried about breaking anything, because there's actually quite a few joints that are pretty tight, and that's pretty much stayed consistent with all the four variations of this mold. There's just a few hinges that they just actually made really tight. I think maybe because most of these actual core panels are actually on pins, so maybe that's why they're so tight. I really don't know, or maybe it's just lucky that all of these figures have been really tight with those sand panels. So again, when you do get this figure and transform it, don't be worried something is going to break. There's just a few panels that are actually pretty tight. As for the race car mode I actually do like it. I really do like the kind of crocodile little sticker or kind of emblems on the back fin. They're not actual stickers. I think they were probably just made to resemble them. I do like the accessory storage. Of course, not the most clever, but since it's a race car, there's really not that many places you can actually store a huge rocket launcher and a huge rifle. So I think for what it is, I actually think it looks pretty cool. I do love the really cool front kind of fin piece at the front there, kind of grill piece. Not really sure what the technical term is for that. I'm not really sure what it's supposed to be called, but I actually do like it. I do like the molding and the detailing of it, but I think it's kind of unfortunate how it's made out of that kind of unfinished gray plastic. It would have been better if this entire front section here was like silver rather than that kind of boring gray. But all the other details, like the really nice green, the pink, just pop and look really good on this figure. I do hope you enjoyed this review. Of course, please do let me know what you think of this figure in the comment section down below, and I'll see you next time.